I got it before I dropped it. But he and Bob Schubert and Al Hoop would have been raising H-E-double-L-O with the stuff that's going on. And I'm not proud of our city.
Are you in your place tonight, or are you the mayor tonight?
I'm in my place.
Okay. Well, the mayor owes me 26 seconds, and I need to collect on that. I'm going to go a little bit over tonight.
I haven't been told any different, let's put it like that.
Okay.
Well, I noticed the consent agendas are getting longer and longer and longer, and they're bringing back stuff that we don't want.
We had a fire on
And I was
Saturday.
told it was because the attorney said we didn't make a complaint good enough.
Pretty good.
Well,
I'm gonna get 3 minutes
It's
tonight.
from the Quad Cities.
I know, you'll hear.
Hi, Carol.
Lease,
I got some positive things to
graduation
say.
parties and stuff. Stayed home and listened to the radio.
I think I got that one. I have never done this one before,
He
so
owes me 26 seconds.
One of the big boys came up and,
Tonight I need him.
what's the name of the gun place?
Tonight's.
Well, I can remember back in the day when we weren't limited.
In State Center.
We
Over
had something important to
last week,
say.
we had
and
Jerry
Daryl's,
Shepherd.
we got that.
We would
a
okay.
building
How do I get the screen to show up?
bullet.
Did it not turn it on?
Those are 4 of the top 10
It's
most
on.
dangerous dog breeds.
after that, we had a fire.
Is this one? Oh no, that one's on.
The weekend kind of by myself.
I tell myself every time this is the time I'm gonna get it.
Just mowing,
I'm a Doberman dad. I've had 7
pretty
Dobermans.
heroic things.
Each year one of my Dobermans is highly trained.
I know, it's very good because we like to be part of this. I'm not kidding about taking
Well, I got this part. I got a streaming. There we are. Got that
unless
right part.
I get sick.
Why isn't it turning on? What the hell? Let's try. Okay.
They find out shopping was a different story. Rowan sat in the car. Greg looked at me and
This
goes,
could be.
no, no. No, I know.
Yeah, that's your deal. Grandparents don't do this.
Must be something of it.
Oh, here.
Yeah, I kind of ran it at him a little bit.
Yeah, she really is.
I ran it.
Doesn't look like the projectors are on.
I publicly stated I did not want this.
All he does is run down and buy you, you know. And I know, it's like, that's not why you want to. Yeah, I know, I heard all about it, because I can see a little bit of it, but I came off. Oh, me too. I mean, I'll see it on Facebook.
Well, he figured it was gonna.
But you know,
Someone might have turned them off.
I work with this 25-year-old,
Oh, no, nope, they're on.
Well,
and he said that he was,
Yep. Huh.
I do it off.
when 9/11
I'm
happened,
doing the works of
I
ours.
must have been in kindergarten, whatever way he said it. I remember that he got very upset and he kept talking. And he said, but I was just a little kid, I was just very young, I was in school. I said, that's because so. I told him about when when Kennedy died, when his funeral, there was no school that day. And I said, I wish we could get that back, that respect for our country back, you know. And, my God,
That's new. I think.
oh,
Know you? Yeah, I know. Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
Bunch of email last couple hours.
Does it have a little dongle that you plug in? I no, really. I've never.
The little thing that makes the wireless Oh. Oh, I've never done this part out here, so.
It always turns on.
So I don't know what, I don't know what. Why can't it always just be simple?
Hi there, how you doing, Mike?
I'm not sure.
Been 4 years already.
Something's happening.
69.
Screen door.
Ooh, must be bad, huh? So how old are you?
You've seen this set up enough, we should have had you do it.
Is the
Starting up.
wireless
when
keyboard have
Amber
batteries?
he retired at 62.
Yeah.
Because he had my insurance. But our Social Security is $500 difference from the 3 years that he retired with me. Yeah, they do, so
Well, now it's lit up.
I always tease him about it.
If all else fails, turn it off and turn it back on again. Okay. Now I'll try it.
No, I'm too tired to cause trouble. Gary?
How much are you willing to pay for that? I don't know yet. For what? For bricks. I paid $100 a piece for 6 of them.
From where?
I'm more than mine. Because he worked those extra years and, we've always worked 6, 7 days a week.
The delivery's free, but I pay for it.
And I said, we can't make
So, when are you gonna find out how much?
Hey, I got a question. Is TJ Maxx coming in this month?
Sure.
It is not.
I'm betting on it, it's like $20 out.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'd like a Trader Joe's.
That's why I asked the question. That's why I got beat up.
Do you know how?
They don't have any
It's
So
not.
how are you doing? It's been a while since I've seen you. You used to be my boss.
Where's the rest of this crew?
Who cares? No. I guess it's just her and I tonight. So you have been doing okay, Gary?
Yeah, this is a little concerning.
Oh. Gary.
Anybody volunteer to open this? It's got some powder on it.
Hey, my life insurance is paid up, so.
What?
My life insurance is paid up, my son would be happy.
Gary? Yeah, I have a question.
Why didn't you ask me when I was over there?
I just want to see you walk back over here. How come Marshtown is so big, and the north end of town, we can't have nothing down there? Like more than just something special like the south side.
There's a lot of people.
That makes a lot more sense. It's like,
So I don't need to do this. So which? Just instead of that. Okay.
Just ran me down in the parking lot and asked me to give this to you.
Okay. Thanks. So go to this one. Make it big. First you'll want to go to agendas. Oh, is that where I need to be? It pulled up you. That's fine. Hit continue. and sign in. Minimize this. Go back in there.
This one?
Yeah, click on that again. Is that what you clicked on?
No, before I clicked on civic clerk.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, click on that one.
This one?
Yeah. Make it big.
Today's
No,
meeting?
no, this is the same thing. Okay, close out of this one. Go back in there. For the 10th time. Click on that one. Make it big again.
Okay.
I don't know why it's not maximizing. Okay, and then
Right here?
open the agenda. Yeah. And then go to this one, overview. Okay, so minimize that. Go back to the one with this one. This is not what I want. Go back here again.
He talked to a couple people, one came in, talked to Carol, and all of them were fine.
Okay, go back to this one.
Apparently, he went,
Go to civic clerk. Yeah, you must not have clicked on that the first time. Okay, click on this little yellow circle and go to board portal display. And then hit display. There we go.
Okay.
Alright, now we should be okay.
All right.
we'll see if the members knows you got 26 seconds. I need to go a little longer.
Hi, Steve.
I want to see that, you know? I don't have to talk to anybody else. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I knew.
That's what Sarah had. The second son, that's cool. That's really cool. And the guy that owns the cave. Yes. I get such a kick out of it. Yeah, he's always doing something. He's on Iowa State, and he's going into design. Oh, cool. I said, well, you want there's nothing here in Iowa for that. He is one of the kindest, you know, they have the oldest one. Those two cabins. And I can say that to yeah, there's four in the family, there's four kids, but they have Three and a half.
Cleaning out some well, ironically, the apartment across the street or across the hallway from that same part.
Oh, okay. Back end and everything. And then in the front, so the rest of it, we have the back and the house. We go through the best. We can't just take them off the schedule. Yeah, we can't keep them in stock.
Yeah, no.
Yep, no problem.
Is it safe? Why does mine have white power on it?
Not regret. Well, I'm just trying to picture. Oh, that's true. They had a baby died. Well, wait a minute. Okay. But they didn't. Oh, yeah, I know where that was. No, I don't, I never knew where they were. Okay.
And we don't carry shred mail.
They lived in Arlo. Yeah, you're thinking about people. Yeah. They lived next to me. One of my friends.
Friends that he looked at that. Retired, got his life together.
He was really
Every time I go paperwork in there, you can tell exactly where it's at.
But you know what? Because he grew up with
Well, there you go. I've been trying. No, it's got different.
I was just going to tell you that. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
My sister, our first cousin, my one sister. First cousin,
Test, there we go. Welcome, everyone. We are at 10 West State Street in Marshalltown, which is the City Hall Council Chambers, and it's a regular meeting of the City Council, except it's on a Tuesday since yesterday was a national holiday. Today's date's May 27, 2025. The time is 5:30 p.m. We are called to order. Would those available join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Fonseca. Here. Kell.
Here.
Lottiehoff.
Here.
Mitchell.
Here.
Nichols. Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here. Very good. We have a quorum. And on to item D, which is public comment. Members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda during this time. The speakers shall approach the mic, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes unless a longer comment is authorized by me. The speaker shall direct comments to the mayor and the council as a whole. The mayor and council may provide a response to a public comment, but shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public. No action may be taken on those items in order to comply with the open meetings laws. Microphone is open.
Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue. Happy to say I've lived there 75 years. And I am praising everybody that remembered our veterans, including our Union Pacific Railroad. And since I live nearby, and I am proud to wave flags, this will be seen by everyone coming up South 2nd Avenue and going down South 2nd Avenue. This is the Union Pacific vintage flag. And I will be happy to be waving that with my other flags that are there. And I want to give a kudos to my neighbors. Ross, down the street from me. When I had a problem with my new tiller, I went down and Jason was so happy to put it together for me, which I very much appreciated because they know that I'm an elderly woman and needs a little help every now and again. So I thank them. And I always get help when I go to Thompson's True Value too, when I need something there. I shop local. I'm happy to do that as well. And looking at the agenda tonight, I notice there are a lot of things on there, but there are a lot of people that are my age, 75, 85. Everything seems to be pushing towards the younger generation. We want to do things for them. And things that you're voting on, TIF things that are going to be 20 years. I wonder if God's going to let me to live to 95. I don't know. I don't think anyone really does know. But when you guys are voting on things, I have always been against drinking and driving and alcohol, consuming that in an open container anytime. The police can't be everywhere. And so when you vote and say that we should do that and have open containers where they can get a burrito and drive and go, I don't think so. I lost people to a second offense drunk driver. And I think that the law community have a lot to deal with ordinances, and we have a lot of things that are issues here in town. And I just heard today that Caitlin Clark has donated money for a homeless shelter. Now, we have philanthropists here in Marshalltown, and they have donated for things that they think is important. And it's nice that we have a timer now, and I can read that. And so you will not have to put me out of order, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for your time and consideration of my comments.
Thank you, and I'm too lazy to put this on eBay, but I'm still trying to sell the little 3-minute timer that's up here. Anybody else?
Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. Last week on the Marshalltown Outreach page on Facebook, there were at least 4 dogs running loose. A German Shepherd, a Doberman, a Rottweiler, which I heard was involved in an incident, and a Pit Bull. All 4 of these dog breeds are in the top 10 dangerous breeds. The Pit Bull was in my neighborhood. A tenant in my apartment complex was waiting on the sidewalk for a ride. She saw the Pit Bull chasing a squirrel, and when he saw her, he chose a different prey. She wanted to run, but said she thought it might provoke him. So she went as fast as she could walk, and she made it to her apartment just when he got there. He started jumping on her door, trying to get in, then went to her picture window and tried jumping on it to get in. She was terrified. I was not home at the time, but I did ask her, I says, "Did you call the police?" Her response was, "What good would they do?" I got numerous texts and posts last week about these dogs that were loose, asking if I was the Pit Bull guy, could I do something? My reply to every person was to call the police. Their replies to me were similar to my neighbors. Why? They have no confidence in the police to handle this problem. Last year we had over 700 dog incidences, and in 2023 we had 40 dog bites in the first 10 months. That's 1 a week. A female mail carrier who was one of those victims just had the 5th surgery on her serious hand injury. The retired chief told all of you at a council meeting that I was over-exaggerating the problem. We did not have a dog problem. Obviously, I was not exaggerating. Marshalltown has a dog problem. I don't want the police to spend all their time on loose dogs. They have something else to do. But with 700 dogs, if you happen to be involved in one of these incidents, it's very important to you. We even have a dog park problem. Aggressive dogs are there, and when you're supposed to be able to go in there and unleash your dog, they seem to think that they're confident that their dog won't be injured and almost dare you to let yours loose. I have no solution for this. Part of the problem may be an officer's discretion while dealing with these problems. Sometimes the owner just gets a verbal warning. Our dog ordinance is very clear and has progressive penalties for repeat offenders. A verbal warning is not in the ordinance, and it gives the owner a reprieve. Maybe our fines are not high enough to encourage the owners not to let their dogs run loose. I've seen loose dogs in an owner's house, not in a fenced yard, and I've stopped and told them their dog needs to be on a leash, only to be flipped off. Telling them I'm going to call the police gets no reaction or a who cares. When there is a dog at large ticket and fine, noting the location may help other people avoid those addresses. While licensing all dogs might help, making owner identifications easier, fines if you don't license. Maybe enforcing dangerous dog breeds, requiring $100,000 liability insurance if you own one of those breeds. People are scared. Some people have suggested a full-time dog catcher. I don't think that's economically feasible. Somebody even suggested they're a volunteer with authority to write tickets. I don't know if that's feasible. But one thing is very clear. Marshalltown has a dog problem.
Thank you. Microphone's still open. Okay. Time for council and administrator and mayor comments.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I just want to remind people to make sure that you shop uptown. We've got some shop owners up there. I'm sure the walk-in traffic is probably down because of the improvements that's going on Center Street, and they can sure use our support. Thank you.
Mayor, yes, this past Memorial Day was an excellent service out at the Iowa Veterans Home. The area was packed, standing room only. So it was a great thing for our fallen heroes. So we look forward to having another one out there and maybe even be able to do an expansion out there into the garden or something. Thank you.
Any other councilor comment? Carol? Okay. Well, I actually visited with our city administrator today about this, and so to respond to the dog issue, which has become more prevalent, it seems, in the media and otherwise, and frankly, it's not just dogs. I know we also have a cat problem. We've got a group of people that are volunteering to try to keep the feral cat population down. About a year and a half ago, I think it was, Jim, I had floated the idea of having a task force to look at this. You sent me several names. I checked around. At that time, there wasn't a whole lot of interest in following through on it. But given that we have a new director at the Animal Rescue League, we have a new chief of police, the dog incidences keep piling up. I think it may be time to have another task force. We've done a couple in the last 12 months. One's the homeless task force that's active and working. I'm sorry, Greg Nichols isn't here tonight because he chairs the NEAT task force, which is working on our enforcement of nuisance things. I think maybe it is time to have a task force related to animal control in town. Carol came from a city that did have some different ordinances. I think it would take a study of ordinances, and I know that the director of the Animal Rescue League came here with some ideas, and he offered to help on redrafting our ordinance. I personally think that we need to have graduated fines, maybe a little steeper. I like having a no tethering more than so many hours type of thing to keep dogs from becoming vicious because they're tethered and not cared for. And we maybe need some more education in this community, and maybe this committee or task force could do that. So as much as I'm not looking for the extra work, my email is put in the newspaper about 5 times a week, so I'm easy to email. Send me names and credentials if you have some, or what connection people might have to this kind of issue, and I'll try to put together a task force. That is all I had tonight.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. On to consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve it?
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes.
Very good. When we used to have the clerk read those 28 items, we'd been here till 9 o'clock. On to motions, 2 of those. What's our first one?
Motion to approve a temporary outdoor service amendment for the 918 at 918 North 4th Avenue for the blessing of the bikes on June 7th.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Very good. Discussion on this one? I think we've seen this in the past, haven't we?
Yes, Your Honor, this is an annual event. They have an outdoor service area on their patio. This would expand it to the grass area adjacent to the patio.
Any questions up here? Comments? Public? Roll call.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes. Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
By the way, if I ever go too fast on that and somebody really did want to comment in the public, please raise your hand or shout at me and we'll slow it down a little bit. All right, our next motion.
Motion to reconsider the 8-month Class C retail alcohol license for I Caramba Burrito Shop at 1803 South Center Street from the May 12th, 2025 agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Let's, I don't think this one calls for debate. It's a matter of whether it's going to be taken off the table or to be reconsidered, right? So let's go ahead and call a roll.
Fonseca. Yes. Kell,
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Mitchell,
No.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Okay, that did carry. Is there now a motion to approve that Class C retail?
Point of
alcohol?
order, Your Honor.
Yes.
Takes a supermajority to reconsider, 2/3 of the council, so that should have failed tonight.
I have to admit, I didn't do the math on that, and we're down to 6. 4 out of 6 is 2/3 by my remedial math. Is the supermajority higher than that here?
It's of all council members, so I don't believe it's,
You don't reduce that just because someone's missing.
yes.
Okay, so it needed to be 5 out of 7, not 4 out of 7. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for that point of order. You know, I've done this, 7.5 years? You'd think I'd have better grasp of the rules of procedure on that one. Okay. Well, let's go on to resolutions. What's our first one of those?
Resolution approving a comprehensive plan amendment for 706 East Lynn Street, east to South 8th Avenue, 715 Noble Street, 710 to 716 Noble Street, and 713 to 715 East Main Street.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
And discussion? Any staff want to take the lead on this one? Clayton.
Good evening, Clayton Ender, Assistant Director of Housing and Community Development. This is a proposal brought forward by Marshalltown Company, and it's in tandem with an ordinance later on in your agenda under the ordinances section. This item would address a comprehensive plan amendment for the subject properties from the current future land use designation of low-density residential and a little bit of commercial to the revised to light industrial future land use designation. And this would be intended to support rezoning of the property, and which would be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Marshalltown Company is they're working on some facility expansions currently, which will take away some existing off-street parking facilities that they need to relocate elsewhere. They've identified and purchased these properties for that purpose. Our zoning code says that off-street parking facilities has to be in a non-residential zoning district, so the rezoning, which will be later, will address that portion of it. The comprehensive plan would just establish what we believe the future land use should be for that. Happy to go into further detail or answer any questions as needed. I'll certainly address this again under your ordinances.
Let's see if the council has any of those questions or comments. Don't see any. Let me invite the public on that one too. Any comments, questions? Any letters from anybody in the public? I doubt.
No, Your Honor.
Roll call.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes.
That carried. Next ordinance.
Resolution approving a comprehensive plan amendment for 915, 917, and 919 South Center Street.
Move for approval. Second.
Discussion up here or out there? Keep it short.
Clayton Ender again. This is a comprehensive plan amendment that would change the future land use from the current low-density residential to a revised to mixed-use zoning district. Similar to your previous item, this is in partnership with an ordinance that's later on in your agenda this evening. The comprehensive plan adjacent properties do actually call for mixed-use density or mixed-use land use, specifically like the parcels such as Fairway, Taco John's, just to the north. So this would be consistent with adjacent future land uses and would allow for a rezoning that is consistent with our comprehensive plan. Happy to go into further detail, answer any questions if you have any.
Any up here or out there? This is the first reading, as I understand it.
This is a resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, roll call.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I jumped ahead to see all the numbers of the different addresses here under ordinances. All right, next item.
Resolution approving the appointment of Kelsey Stafford as the Park and Recreation Director for the City of Marshalltown.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Jeff Schneider, myself, and Carol Webb were on the interview committee. We had several good candidates, very good candidates. And we left it to City Administrator Webb to pick out the top two. I am very happy with the appointment of Kelsey. I think she'll fit right in. I think she'll fit right in with Marshalltown, too. This is an excellent hire.
There were a lot of resumes, a lot of good candidates this time. Yeah, very good. Anybody else? Roll call.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes.
Very good. Now on to ordinances.
Ordinance 15100 to amend the official zoning map for lots 166, 167, 168, 169, 170, 171, 172, 173, 174, and 175 in Melrose Park Addition of the town of Marshall, Marshall County, Iowa, from medium density residential zoning district to general industrial zoning district. Third reading.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Discussion on this one.
There have been no updates or changes since your first or second readings. Happy to provide a summary if you feel it's necessary.
Any necessary comment or questions up here or by the public?
Your Honor, if I may,
You may.
so I need to address this to the representatives from JBS. Question is, have all the involved parties adjacent to this retention pond been asked about their opinion?
I know you directed that question to the representative, but I will acknowledge that notice was mailed to all property owners within 250 feet, including those adjacent to the detention pond. And I did receive, of those immediately adjacent, I had an inquiry from one property owner. I don't recall which one it was. They just asked what's being proposed. I explained it to them. Quick summary, they said, okay. And that was it. Other than that, I've not heard from anyone. They were provided notice for both the Planning Commission as well as for City Council.
Earlier today, I had spoke to one party down there, and they said they had absolutely no notification. Nobody's come to their house. And after I talked to Mr. Lottie Hoff, I contacted him again, and they said that definitely had no contact with anybody.
There were several mailers that were returned to sender by the post office for various reasons. Can't really control that necessarily, but we also did post signs at the site advertising of the proposed rezoning with contact information for myself. So, and it also was posted in the newspaper if they so wish to look in the newspaper. So there were several means. It's not a perfect system, but a good faith attempts to notify all property owners was adhered to in accordance with state law.
Any other comments up here or out there? Roll call.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
No.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
Carried. Unable. What's our next one?
Ordinance 15101 to amend the official zoning map for 915, 917, and 919 South Center Street from medium-density residential zoning district to mixed-use zoning district. First reading.
Move for approval.
Second.
We previously touched on the comprehensive plan in your resolutions item of the agenda. So this property is now identified as mixed use, future land use. It is proposed to be changed from the current RM medium density residential zoning district to the mixed use zoning district. The purpose would be to support redevelopment of the parcels for either residential or non-residential use. Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval, subject to the condition that the existing structures on the site as in existence as of today could not be used for non-residential uses such as commercial. They could continue to be used in a residential fashion. In particular, the center parcel that's under private ownership, 917, is currently an occupied rental dwelling. That can continue to be used in that manner. However, if there is a desire to redevelop the parcels, those could be demolished and then either new structures built for commercial or residential purposes. I will acknowledge that under the discussion items this evening, we do have responses from bids for the 2 city-owned parcels, and that will help us maybe get a little more specific on the intended usage of the site, recognizing that the city does own 915 and 919 South Center Street.
Can you spoil the ending or fast forward and tell us what that is?
We received 3 bids on 915. That's the house adjacent to Taco John's. 1 bid for rehab of the structure into a habitable house again. And then 2 bids for demolition and then consolidation. So the 2 bids for demolition and consolidation were bids on 915 and 919. And both of them would be demolish and then consolidate with the intent to market it for redevelopment. Unfortunately, neither of those bids had a user identified at this time, but they would like to kind of clear the site, make it ready for the market to bring in new development.
Thank you.
That's
Okay.
a synopsis, but we'll get a little more detail later under the discussions.
Any comments or questions up here? Public comments? Roll call.
Mitchell? Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Very good. One able, on to the next one.
Ordinance 15102 to amend the official zoning map for lots 1, 2, 13, 14, 15, and 16, Block 1, Woods Addition to Marshall County, Iowa, and lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, Block 2, Woods Addition to Marshall County, Iowa, and lots 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, Block 3, Woods Addition to Marshall County, Iowa, from medium-density residential zoning district to general industrial zoning district. First reading.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion.
We touched on the comprehensive plan during your resolution items just a moment ago. So these parcels are now identified as general or light industrial future land use. Proposal is to change from the current zoning district of RM, medium density zoning, to GI, general industrial zoning district. Intended usage of the site is for off-street parking facilities to be used for Marshalltown Company as part of their facility expansion project. The proposed amendment has been before the Planning and Zoning Commission, who has recommended approval. They did include that with conditions of certain uses be prohibited. Those uses would have been otherwise special use permits, so kind of that higher intensity, heavy industrial, correctional facility. Some of those less desirable or less compatible uses, especially when adjacent to residential usage. But Planning Commission, they did recommend approval, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, go into further detail as needed. And no, that'll be for your public hearing that the notice goes, so that'll be your next reading.
Up here, any questions, comments out there? Roll call on this one.
Lottie
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
Carried as well. One able. Next one.
Ordinance 15103 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 156, zoning, self-service storage, mini warehouses. First reading.
Floor is open for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion.
This is a
You're
proposal.
getting your steps in today, Clayton.
I am, back and forth, back and forth. This is a proposal brought forth by the Shops at Marshalltown LLC for the former mall that's undergoing redevelopment. They have requested that the zoning code be amended to allow for self-service storage, mini warehouse land use by special use permit in the general commercial zoning district. This would be paired with conditions that the use can't be located it can't be located such that it's visible from any existing or planned road, which is classified as major or minor arterial on the city's adopted comprehensive plan, that all the storage units have to be internally accessed, so you don't have those individual external access facilities, and outdoor storage shall be prohibited. While this request came forward specifically for the mall property, bear in mind that this would apply to all properties zoned general commercial within the city. There's no other active proposals in the pipeline, but I just wanted to make sure that is clear up front. This has been before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they have recommended approval. With that, happy to answer any questions or go into further detail as needed.
Time for questions or comments up here?
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
Clayton, for the mini storage, would this be just like the regular storage that we see, or are they going to be bigger units, or what is the market?
That I would have to, I don't know if we have anyone from the applicant this evening. They certainly will be here for your next one. I could ask that question. I don't know that right now, what their intended makeup of storage unit size will be.
Okay, thank you.
But I can inquire for you.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else up here? Any public on this one? Roll call.
Fonseca?
No.
Kell?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
That carried. It's nice to see the vote results, kind of like the timer. A little fast. You didn't have to write it all down. I just have to count on my hands, fingers. That carried as well. On to the next one.
Ordinance 15104 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 156, Zoning, Accessory Dwelling Units, Board of Adjustment Procedures, and Residential Building Materials, first reading.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion.
This is a set of ordinance amendments that come about as a result of state legislative changes at the State House. The residential building materials is actually one that happened in 2024, so we need to clean up our code a bit there to stay compliant with state law. The accessory dwelling units and Board of Adjustment powers and procedures, that is coming out of this legislative session. The state law would go into effect July 1, so I did draft this ordinance in a way that it would be in effect no earlier than July 1, 2025. I'm not going to go through each individual bullet point, but just a brief summary. The residential building materials, the state has said that for residential buildings containing 12 residential units or less, we cannot regulate the building materials on the exterior in a way that's more restrictive than the state building code, either directly or indirectly. So I just kind of had done a deep dive on our code, identified those areas that were in conflict, and proposed those amendments. The accessory dwelling units, that comes out of this legislative session, in which we must allow for accessory dwelling units on all single-family parcels, and in a way that is no more restrictive than a single-family home. So as drafted, this would establish that an accessory dwelling unit can be on any parcel of single family with the same setbacks. Currently, we say a parcel has to be at least 15,000 square feet in size to have an accessory dwelling unit. We can no longer do that per state law. So regardless of lot size, we have to allow it. Now, we can still regulate the setbacks, the same as a single family home, the height, the same as a single family home, things of that nature. So that's largely just copying and pasting the state code within our ordinance. Units can be 50% of the primary dwelling unit size or 1,000 square feet, whichever is greater. So if you have a 1,000 square foot house, you can have a 500 square, or you'd have 1,000 square foot unit, because you can have at least 1,000. If you have a 4,000 square foot house, you can have a 2,000 square foot unit. If you have a 500 square foot house, you can have a 1,000 square foot accessory unit. So you can have at least that 1,000 square foot as a second unit on these parcels. And then the Board of Adjustment powers and procedures. Some of these are cleanup. I actually caught that we actually didn't say that the Board of Adjustment had the power to do variances and special use permits, in which those items go to the Board of Adjustment per state code. So that's just kind of adopting that and cleaning up our code there. But the big change that came out of the state legislative session was that we currently have what's called an unnecessary hardship standard. Essentially, a property has no economic use, therefore you could vary the regulations for it. Variances should be hard to get because it's a high threshold to have. The state has said we can use a practical difficulties standard, which is a lesser standard. Unfortunately, they didn't really tell us what practical difficulties means. So the Planning and Zoning Commission, when they reviewed it, they did put forward a definition, which is your section 16 in the ordinance of how they define practical difficulties. They based that off of, they found a definition from Michigan Supreme Court that they liked, and they borrowed that. I think the most telling thing about that definition is the showing of mere inconvenience is insufficient to justify a variance. So you still need to prove some type of hardship, some type of uniqueness, but it doesn't need to rise all the way to that level of I have no use of my property but for getting a variance. It would mean that I would have a very hard time using it. That's a very quick rundown. I'm happy to do a deeper dive on any sections, go further detail overall, answer any questions as you may have them. This has been before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they have recommended approval.
Been keeping them busy. Any questions or comments up here? First reading, so we'll have, yes.
Yeah. Clayton, for the ADUs, could you let me know kind of if there's a property owner who would want to add an ADU, would they need to, they would just need to follow the regular permit, construction permits for adding electrical, adding plumbing, like all that?
Yeah,
stuff?
it'd be administrative permits, building permit, trade permits as required, but it would not require any special use permit. It'd have to be treated the same as a single-family home, so the same permitting process as a single-family home.
Okay, thank you.
And these can be standalone, but also attached to, as I read the statute.
Standalone, within, attached, any fashion.
And the real reason for it looks like from what the media was covering it, was to allow more people to have more residences, more living spaces in towns, even if they're a little smaller.
Yeah, it addresses a variety of issues, generational housing needs where, you have members of the same family, but they want to have different living spaces. Some people want to have a means to earn some income from their property, but also to address housing affordability and, housing availability as a whole within the state, which is not unique to Iowa. It's a nationwide, I think it might even be a worldwide shortage of housing. We have more people now, and people are looking for places to live.
And the practical implication of the ADU?
For the people on online.
Steve Leidinger, I'm your city attorney. The practical standpoint of the setbacks for the ADU being the same as the setback for the principal dwelling, that really means you have to have a bigger lot in order to have an ADU, because if you would just imagine your postage stamp lot, you take the setbacks for a principal dwelling. On most normal subdivisions, you're only going to be able to fit one building within those setbacks before you start stacking them on top of each other. So I would just, when I first saw this, I was very concerned. I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody and their brother is going to be popping up like tiny home villages in every subdivision. But from a practical standpoint, by kind of stacking those setback requirements, you kind of limit that to where it's actually appropriate and fits for those larger lots where you get some separations. Had it been, for example, your standard setbacks for an accessory building, that would potentially allow anyone to convert a detached garage, for example, to a secondary dwelling while being precluded by state law from requiring any additional on-site parking, because you're not allowed, even though you have to allow these, you're not allowed to require any more on-site parking. So it avoids some issues. Again, putting those setbacks the same, I think it avoids a lot of issues that you could run into if you didn't do that. So I think Clayton's, he's got the right idea, so.
Your Honor, I have another question.
Sure.
Clayton, so with the setbacks, are they, could you go into detail with the square footage of so like how the city attorney was explaining on the detached garage item. So in particular, we have different size lots, we have different properties, we have, different styles of homes. So what would it mean what does it mean when there's a property owner who would want to add an ADU with the setbacks? Like what would the house and however it would be calculated for them to put one on there?
So setbacks, they do vary based on the zoning district in which the property is located. Front yard setbacks can vary from 20 to I think 40 feet. Rear yard setbacks kind of that same threshold. So the availability of land to put it is going to, lot dimensions, zoning district's going to come into play. But as our city attorney was addressing, on some of these smaller lots, you're likely not going to see a detached ADU coming into play due to limited available land area. What I could envision in those cases is home conversions. Maybe a basement gets converted into a second dwelling unit. You're able to split a first and second level into 2 units, things of that nature. But it would preclude a detached garage that is meeting accessory structure setbacks from being converted to an accessory dwelling unit, because those have a less strict setback standard than a single family home. So that's how it's currently drafted. Now, certainly, I'm not sure if this is something you want to go to, but if you wanted to be less strict and allow for lesser setbacks, that's certainly within your power. You just can't be more strict. So if you wanted to open up and allow, for example, a detached garage to be converted, that's something that you could do. That would be something you'd need to suggest as an amendment to the current draft.
Okay, thank you, Clayton.
Anybody else up here? Any public comment on this one?
My comment's related to the accessory.
Sorry, you have to introduce yourself.
Marco Yepes Gomez, 11 North 6th Street. So my comment's more relating to the accessory dwelling unit. In the United States, there's a housing crisis that hardly gets covered in the news. Housing experts tell us the solution is simple: build more housing. Although the solution is simple, there are tons of roadblocks that mainly have to do with local zoning laws. To truly address this national housing crisis, the federal government must do a giant overhaul of how zoning and housing initiatives are done at the local level. With the current degradation of our institutions, that won't happen anytime soon. So it's always a big win when local and state governments can do anything to make progress towards a solution. The bill that was passed in Iowa deregulating accessory dwelling units in cities is a giant step forward. I hope cities in Iowa, including Marshtown, can build off the momentum of good housing policies changes like these rather than falling into NIMBYism traps that has been the main reason to why we are in a housing crisis in the first place. And I do also want to make a comment about the setback. Actually, I think for medium residential, that's where my parents, that's the zoning. And I think I saw that it's 15 feet, the setback for a rear. And I was mentioning it to my dad, and we were just mind blown because our garage is like 5 feet away from the adjacent neighbors. And obviously it's a really older house. But to us, that's super normal, and we've never had a problem with neighbors or anything like that. I think it's just kind of like more NIMBYism, being scared of having, a dwelling or a building close to your neighbor. It's pretty normal for the people on the north side to just have that, so, yep. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to ask you what NIMBY stood for, then I figured it out. Not in my backyard, right? Okay. Anybody else? Well, it's first reading. Let's call the roll.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes. Cal,
Yes.
Carried. Number 6.
Ordinance 15105 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 130, Offenses Against Peace and Safety, Section 130.018, Fireworks, first reading.
Move to approve, Your Honor. Second.
Discussion on this one. Was in our packet.
Your Honor, I can just briefly talk about why this is on your agenda this evening.
Sure.
The state recently passed a law that requires cities to allow the use of consumer fireworks on July 3rd, July 4th, and December 31st. So we needed to update the code to align with the new state law.
Probably not the night to do it since our city attorney's here and present. Okay. Did I get a motion in a second?
Yes, we have a motion and a second.
Any further discussion up here? Any public comment on this one? People know where I stand on it, so I'll stay quiet.
Jim Shaw, 522 North Second. I know it doesn't do any good, but I don't like this law. I got enough fireworks going off at 12 and 1 and 2 and 3, but nothing I can do about it, but that's my opinion.
Okay, so I really don't think anyone has issues with fireworks during holidays, especially when they're scheduled and supervised. But I think most of us do have an issue with random fireworks going off at night for weeks around 4th of July. I understand the changes and that they're only for Independence and New Year's, but we all know that's not what's going to happen. These firework changes coming from the state are disappointing but not surprising. Instead of focusing on fireworks, the state should have probably focused on increasing that embarrassing 2% public school funding and stopping the obsession on killing public education instead. Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Cal,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes.
That carried. We're into that season again, even though the tents haven't been set up. And already in our neighborhood around 5th and Hughes, we're hearing them after midnight. And so just be aware, folks out there, there's a graduated penalty, and the first penalty is pretty stiff. So neighbors can take videos of you doing it on your property and turn it in, and that's been prosecuted in the past. And I know because I've been one of those that has turned people in for this. And as a lawyer, I've handled too many eye-out cases because of fireworks, and that's why I'm absolutely against these. But on the 3rd and 4th of July and New Year's Eve, expect them to be shot off. Okay, next one.
Ordinance 15106 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa by amending Chapter 52, Sewers and Sewage Disposal by amending Section 52.029, User Charge System, first reading.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Heather Thomas, Public Works. This ordinance is the first reading before you to change how user rates are charged to certain facilities. This stemmed from a change last year where Marshalltown Water Works began charging more properties than they had in the past with a water bill. And that is what installs a water meter, which then triggers charging sanitary sewer charges as well. Following that, this past winter during the general fund discussion and the budget shortfall there was a direction from City Council to stop effective July 1, charging certain city facilities a storm and sanitary sewer rate as well. And lastly, there was discussion related to the youth recreational opportunities at the 6th Street softball, MFL, Little League complex related to charging sewer and storm sewer rates there as well. So those 3 items are taken into effect, and in your packet is language exempting certain properties owned by the city of Marshalltown from paying a sanitary sewer and a storm water utility rate. This chapter is for the sanitary sewer side, and it would include recreational property that the city owns that is leased out to those complexes by the 6th Street as well. With that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Are there any up here? Any public questions or comments? Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Carried. And the last one of the ordinances.
Ordinance 15107 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa by amending Chapter 53, Stormwater by amending Section 53.024, exemptions and credits available. First reading.
Move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
All right.
Heather Thomas, Public Works. Ditto to everything I just said except on the stormwater. Open it up for questions.
Oh, short and sweet. I don't hear any questions. I don't see anybody in the public standing up to run to the mic. Roll call.
Thompson,
Ditto? Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Carried. All right. On to discussion items. We have 5 tonight. The first is a request for council designated local option sales tax for a youth and adult recreational sports master plan. Who'd like to launch this one? Okay.
I'll do so, Your Honor. At the May 12th council meeting, council directed staff to initiate the development of a youth and adult recreational sports master plan. We're requesting the use of council-designated local option sales tax to hire a consultant to develop the plan because we do not have the expertise in-house to do so. I'm estimating that the plan would cost approximately $50,000 to $75,000, and I've attached a draft of an RFP to solicit proposals for such a plan. I've also included the balance sheet for the council-designated local option sales tax fund, and the fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2026 is estimated at $1,792,525.
Thank you. The floor is open for discussion.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to support this project. It seems like we have lost some recreational facilities for adults and youths in my time in Marshalltown over 45 years. But, it's time to modernize this, get our facilities together, easier to maintain, lower long-term expenses, higher utilization. So I think this is a great idea. So I would make a motion to approve up to $75,000 for an RFP for this placemaking plan.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion up here? Or out there? I didn't take the time to invite the local athletes that made it to our state track meet and state tennis meet, and the esports folks are doing well again here. So we really do have some good athletes here, but we need to have more participation and younger participation in coaching for this sort of thing. I'll get off my soapbox and let other people speak up here. Any public comment on this one? Roll call.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Very good. I also would like to mention that there's an active group of volunteers and citizens and donors helping on this effort too, so that helps. All right, lease agreement policy.
Okay, so City Council was advised by legal counsel to evaluate its current lease agreements, lease rates, and lease terms for a variety of groups that we have current lease agreements with. At a previous council meeting, staff requested assistance from 2 council members to work with the city administrator and legal counsel to conduct the evaluation and bring recommendations back to City Council for consideration. That committee did meet, and we are proposing a lease agreement policy, which is attached for council consideration. Essentially, the policy aligns fair market rent, that we would charge fair market rent for city facilities unless that we can demonstrate a public benefit that is provided through that lease. So we have the city attorney here tonight. He can elaborate on that. But what I'm looking for is some direction as far as bringing this policy back for council approval.
Any discussion about this one? Up here, out there? You need some direction though, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would make a motion that staff put a formal policy together and bring it back to us.
I'll second that.
Since we haven't had any discussion, let's just vote.
Kell?
Yes.
Lotigoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Very good. Staff has its direction. Third one, Human Resources Policy Amendments.
Jill Petermeyer, Human Resources. So you have a memo attached that had 4 policies with revisions from our policy manual and 1 new policy. My memo outlined the revisions and had a copy of that for you. I will highlight just a couple of the ones that did have some budget impact to them. The new policy that was in there that would have a positive budget impact would be a voluntary furlough policy, and that would allow our employees to take up to 5 furlough days per fiscal year. We've actually had some employees request this policy, so that could give us a cost savings for salary, some salary savings. The one policy that would have a budget impact that we would need to budget for would be in the compensation policy, and that would be a bilingual pay differential for our staff, and that we're proposing $1 per hour for our staff members. I don't have any benchmarking data for that. I like to usually give you that, but I don't unfortunately have any. I did have 4 staff members track for a week how many customers they assisted, where their bilingual skills were necessary, and we had 50 customers that were impacted in a week. So that's just to show you what the value is that that our staff are giving to those customers. Happy to answer any questions on the other policies that I presented to you.
Your Honor, if I may?
You may.
Jill, thank you. Good work. Just a couple questions. Fluency, how are you guys going to determine if someone's fluent? And I'm assuming if we hire someone that is fluent in 3 languages, they're going to get a bump of $2 an hour, right?
We usually only do, right now we have it for the police union is the only one we have. We don't have anybody that has 2 languages, but it's specified as $1 that they would get.
So once they're fluent in 1 language besides English, that's as high as they can go?
Yes.
Okay. The other question is, I'm a little concerned that since you're bringing back these changes to policy, what are we doing to address the people that work in finance that handle money? In their first year, I didn't see anything in here that covers them they have to take 5 days away from handling money? Are we just sending them home without pay?
I would have to defer to Diana if she's having them not work like the cash register or something for a week. I'm not sure how she's handling that. that would be something for Diana. I don't know if she can address that for you. I will address your fluency, just so you know that. Right now, when we do hire somebody, we have another coworker have a conversation with them. But I also do have an arrangement with the local college where I can send somebody out there, and they can do a test with them. They can do a written test for me for a minimal fee. So that is something, arrangement we do have.
I'm sorry. So this would be every language, including American Sign Language, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So the current policy is the first year they don't get any vacation. So they have been taking it off without pay. So now we'll be adding vacation from the start for 2 days, right?
It'd be 3 days at start and 2
Okay.
days at 6 months.
3 days.
Let me make sure I understand it. I don't like the idea that we're hiring employees, and just because of the nature of their job, we're making them lose money by going home. We can't move them into another position. We can't have them, go out and sweep sidewalks or something.
We could move them into a different position temporarily.
I'm just not happy that
We haven't done that.
they have to give up pay.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Other comments or questions by the council? Any public comments or questions?
Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. Are these 5 days mandatory or are they voluntary that they take off? Because at Fisher's where I worked, they had a thing where you could take unpaid days off, but it was voluntary. If you can afford to take them unpaid, then do it. If you can't, don't.
The proposal in the policy amendments that Jill is bringing forward is to offer voluntary furlough days. So it would be up to 5 days that would be voluntary for staff. I think there's some confusion, and we could have Diana clarify, but is there some interpretation of what Diana said to mean that we are currently requiring people with less than 1 year of work to take 5 days off? Is that accurate? We're requiring them to take 5 unpaid days now if they're here less than a year?
No, in one of the policies, it discusses that finance staff have to be away from handling money for 5 days. But her staff don't take 5 unpaid days off consecutively throughout the year.
I just want to make sure we're all operating off of accurate information.
I'm not sure how
Yeah.
she's handling that total week off without them handling cash. I think that's what their confusion is.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So for 3 of my staff that have been here a while, we do take 5 consecutive days off. For the new people that just started, it is difficult. They have wanted to take a vacation, and so they took it without pay, and so then they had 5 days off, unpaid.
Your Honor, if I may? So I understand the policy is it's required that every employee that handles cash has to take 5 consecutive days away from handling cash. What I'm saying is, I just don't like, since the first year person doesn't have vacation, there's no room to debate this or give them latitude, and I just don't like that this wasn't fixed as part of this that you're bringing forward, that we're forcing them to take time off away without pay. We don't do that for anybody else that I know of, other departments.
I can work with Jill, and we can, just like we do for people on workers' comp, find different tasks throughout the agency. They just need to be away from finance.
We commit to doing that. We can find other things for them to do that doesn't involve cash handling.
And that's all I'm asking.
I'll confess I'm a little miffed that we don't allow any vacation within the first year. Wow.
And that's why we're asking in the policy change to get some time in the first year. It honestly hasn't been anything that people have really had issue with, but benchmarking wise, it's definitely something that we need to, for recruitment purposes. And then also one of the changes is to change it to 2 weeks at 1 year instead of 1 week. And I've done benchmarking, and that is very consistent with cities our size.
That's consistent with what my experience has been with law firms too, but even just for staff morale for that first year.
Yes.
Oof.
Absolutely.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion for staff to bring back a policy for us to vote on, with the expectation that the finance people, this will be fixed also.
I can add language for that.
Thank you.
Second that.
Do we need a vote?
Can I ask for clarification on that? Because the policy outlines 1 week vacation for a new employee. So finance is required to take 5 days away. The new policy will have 5 days vacation, or are you saying that finance gets an additional 5 days because they're forced to take 5 off?
Your Honor, if I may answer that?
Sure.
What I'm asking, a new employee does not get 5 days in the first year, even under this revision, right? They get 3, right?
They will at 6 months, they'll end up having
At
5
6
days
months.
total.
Okay.
Yep, they'll get some
So
at
you will
higher.
coordinate their 5 days after 6 months then?
Well, what we'll do is we'll put language in that, Counselor, so that it will say that because if they don't want to take those full 5 days, we'll make sure that we have language in there that says we will relieve them of their finance duties for a 5-day period in their first year.
Councilman Kell, all I was asking for is, these people were sent home without pay, when obviously we could have had them do something else in another department, that's all I was asking for.
Fully understand. I was just, the maths with this new one, I was just making sure there wasn't an additional request in there. Thank you.
Any other comments by anybody? Otherwise, let's vote on the motion.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lolleyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, staff has its direction on that one. Now to neighborhood improvement requests for proposals responses.
Clayton Ender again. City Council directed staff to prepare requests for proposals for 501 North First Avenue, 915 South Center Street, and 919 South Center Street. These are currently city-owned parcels. They were on the city's demolition list. However, there was a desire to see if they could be salvaged and or sold. There was RFPs put out a little over a month ago. I did provide you a complete copy of that in your packet. Bidders were offered 2 available options. Option 1 was to demolish and redevelop the property. Option 2 would repair the house to habitable status. There were some time frames associated with it. Permits would need to be pulled within 30 days of closing upon the property. Exterior work has to be complete within 6 months, and all work complete within 1 year. For the bids, I'm going to start with 501 North First Avenue. We received 1 bid from Troy Klein. That was a $10,000 bid. Proposal was to repair the house to habitable status and in accordance with the timeframes in the RFP. Being the lone bid as well as being responsive, staff is recommending council direct staff to work with Troy Klein to prepare the necessary documents for sale of that property. For 915 South Center Street, there were 3 bids received. Dean Lothers bid $1,000, and he did say that he would offer the house for sale to be moved elsewhere. He would like a 60-day window for that sale period. If the house is not sold, it would be demolished at the bidder's expense, and it would be moved in accordance with the timeframes of the RFP, and the vacant land offered in the package was sale of 917, which Dean Lothers currently owns, as well as 919 South Center Street, which he also bid on. The only difference from the RFP was the 60-day window to try to sell the house for moving, certainly seems reasonable and not going to create an unnecessary delay there. The second bid on that property was from Timothy Slutton, $5,000 bid, would repair the house to habitable status in accordance with the timeframes outlined in the RFP. And the third bid was Top Notch Tree Service, $35 bid, house to be demolished in accordance with the timeframes. Did put a condition that the city would need to coordinate and try to purchase 917 South Center Street, and he would buy back for $30,000 from the city, and would package the property together with 917 if able to be purchased, and 919 South Center Street. I'm going to touch on 919 before giving a recommendation on those two kind of as a package there. 919 South Center Street, Dean Lauthers bid $1,000. The only difference from the 915 is that house would just be demolished, no offering that one for sale. And Top Notch Tree Service bid $35, same conditions as 915. While not the highest bid amount, staff is recommending that the bid be awarded to Dean Lauthers, considering he owns the middle piece there and is well positioned to market the three parcels together for a redevelopment opportunity. And we believe that would provide the best opportunity for the city as a whole by opening up a prime commercial or mixed use type redevelopment site on a key commercial corridor here in town. With that, happy to answer any questions, go into detail. I did provide you all the complete documents as well for your review.
Questions or comments up here?
Your Honor, if I may?
You may.
I agree with your assessment on who to award the properties to. If you look at the overall scheme of the whole thing, I think that the city comes out much better taking Mr. Lauthers' offer on the whole properties. Otherwise, we kind of end up with a hodgepodge kind of thing that really doesn't help us.
Other discussion?
Your Honor, my only comment would be adherence to the timeline, to be respectful to the neighbors in those neighborhoods that have dealt with these blighted properties for so long. What's before us seemingly is a win for everyone. What I would hate for this to do is to continue to drag on with extension requests.
My suggestion to address that would be, as the RFP was drafted, they would have 6 months for exterior work. I interpret that, and it had intended it to mean demolition would have to be complete within 6 months. I don't think we stopped that time frame. That would still essentially apply based on that initial 30, so you'd get, would that be 7 months, 30 days plus 6 months? Because so we just kind of keep that 7 month to have it demolished, but you just give an extra 30 days to maybe work out, is it possible to move 915? So 915 South Center, that was the lone house of the original 6 package that the building inspector felt was potentially salvageable. So if someone's interested and is able to move it and is able to get it improved to good condition, so it's not moved in its current condition, we don't want it to wind up elsewhere in town just perpetuating this problem. So I think we can work with Mr. Lauthers and write some language in a purchase agreement that properly addresses that and doesn't drag that on beyond that, what would typically be the end date for demolition.
My comment wasn't geared specifically towards it, but per these agreements that we work in good faith with these bidders that will become property owners, but also keep in mind that these have been problematic properties for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to point out that the purchase agreements would come with a right of reversion. So if they fail to comply with any of these timeframes, the city reserves the right to retake possession and do with it as we so choose at that time. So there is a very serious consequence for not complying with the requirements.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Who would be responsible for the expense of demolition if he falls back on his agreement?
If the city were to invoke the reversion clause, then it would have to come back to council for either demolition package, or do we put it out for bid again? We'd essentially be back to where we are.
Did we pass the expense on to him?
I think I'd have to look to our city attorney who's here, if that's even feasible.
Well, you would have an option of specific performance, because your purchase agreements is the contract. The contracts that they have to, they have to take those steps, they have to demolish it or refurbish it within a specific period of time, or the city has the option of taking title back. You could initiate a contract claim for specific performance to require them to do it. Practically, it's probably going to be easier to take title back and rebid it, but that's an option.
I just don't want to get caught with the expense and the city having to pay for demolition.
Yep, you'd have that option.
Your Honor?
Yes.
For clarification, the city did have the opportunity to demolish this. We chose not to already.
Your Honor, I have a question for Carol, if I may.
Sure.
Carol, if I understand this correctly, what direction moving forward, these all separately come back as, well, the 915 and 919 would come back as a package, perhaps? They'd come back for an ordinance. There'd be a public hearing on one of those. It'd be a 3-reading ordinance, right?
Is it a purchase agreement or?
I guess what I'm asking is every time we sell surplus property or vacant lots, it always comes back, is it it comes back as a resolution, right? Oh, these would come back as a resolution.
Yes, we would have to hold a public hearing to
Well,
sell the lots.
I'll try and make this easy then. I'll make a motion. I'll take the easy one. A motion to bring back what Clayton presented for 501 North First Avenue, the sale to Troy Klein. Bring that back direct staff to bring that one back as a resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Kell?
Yes.
One done, two to go.
Your Honor, I'm going to make a motion to bring back the package as staff has outlined for the Dean Lothers bids, plural.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Let's call the roll.
Kell?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Very good. That carried. Staff has direction. And on to the last item of discussion, which is Union Pacific Railroad Financial Incentive, second upgrade crossing closure.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. I'm going to pull up my memo for this one because there's quite a few moving parts with this project. So I'll do a very brief summary first. Back in March of 2024, we brought a discussion item to you guys to talk about the railroad quiet zone in particular, some changes that were going on with the UP Railroad in specific to their project that was going to build another track over the 2nd Street crossing. At that time, we had a $100,000 cash offer from the UP Railroad to close that at-grade crossing, which the city had previously declined. And our direction from that meeting was to see if we were able to negotiate a different and higher amount from UP Railroad for council's consideration. We have done that negotiation, and the offer on the table is $750,000 for closure of that crossing. In addition to UP's offer of $750,000, we believe in a high probability chance of a $100,000 matching Iowa DOT Section 130 fund that would match some of that. So a total package of $850,000 for the closure of 2nd Street at-grade crossing. I have a lot more information in my memo. I'm going to stop there and see if you guys want to just vote on that as is, or if you would like to go into detail on how this impacts other projects.
The floor is open.
I'll make a motion to stop where we're at and accept the 800 or the 750 guarantee, the possible 100, and just close the intersection for safety for pedestrians.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion up here first.
I think this is a great move to accept this money, close the dangerous intersection. I don't know, ask them if they want to build a viaduct over 12th Street or 12th Ave too, please.
Other council comment or questions? Any public comment on this one?
For, Your Honor, for clarification, what account does that money would it go into? Is that going into the roads or what?
Right now, as drafted in the memo and based on how the negotiations kind of transpired as far as our concern was less about the vehicles and their inconvenience in closing that crossing, but more so the pedestrians. So right now, that money would be intended to go towards improvements for pedestrian and bike traffic to better utilize the 3rd 6th Street viaduct for this area. And so that's currently where this money would be going, and we'd want council's confirmation of that direction.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So when you come back with that later, I'm okay with that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anybody else up here? Any public comment on this one? Let's call the roll.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Pell?
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
That carried. Staff has this direction. Boy, it was like years ago that we had that meeting with the safety people from all across the state with the Union Pacific, and you've been working on this a lot. So Heather, we sure appreciate your work. And Clayton, I got to tell you, your expertise and experience is really coming in handy. I love the Planning and Zoning Commission that you've got going and the work that you're working on. So thank you. We are adjourned. Thanks for coming tonight. 6:49. I don't think there is anybody on the homeless task force right now from the, I don't think there's a counselor